There's just something about cute towns that stick with people, and today we're going to take a look at some of the cutest towns in the United States. These are the kinds of town that you'll fall in love with just on looks alone, sort of like a Sports Illustrated Swimsuit cover model, but a town. On this video, we'll focus on the towns that have a visual charm and natural beauty. Number 10. Newcastle, Delaware. It seems that whenever most people hear about Delaware, it never seems to be much about the stunning small historic towns this state has to offer. Delaware has a lot of history, and you can see it in the architecture of the small towns. If you want a cute walkable town, you should give Newcastle and its 5,000 residents a look. When we say the buildings have an endearing look, we are talking about the official state buildings, museums and homes that are holding on to their colonial architectural roots. Many of these structures look like they could be in downtown London. Newcastle is located south of Wilmington on the Delaware River, and it is a cute town despite the fact that it is so close to Wilmington, which is not as visually appealing. The downtown courthouse is part of the First State National Historic Park. The Newcastle Battery Park is right next to the river, and it's kind of a nice place. Newcastle always reminds us of a charming New England town. Number 9. Hilo, Hawaii. The majority of people visit the main island of Hawaii rather than the island of Oahu, which is home to Honolulu and other popular tourist destinations. The Big Island is home to a number of sleepy villages. It's not your typical charming town, but Hilo, which is the largest town on the island, has a lot of natural beauty surrounding it. You'll be surrounded by a lot of tropical scenery, including palm trees and other similar features. If you look east toward the mainland, you'll see nothing but the ocean, and that's always satisfying to look at. Hilo is the most populous town on the island. One thing to note about Hilo is that it receives a fair amount of rainfall. This is because it is located on the windward side of the island. In contrast, the leeward side to the west is very dry, receiving almost no rainfall throughout the year. Number 8. Nantucket, Massachusetts. Nantucket is one of those towns that seems to be in movies on a regular basis. The films may be comedies, dramas, or even romantic comedies centered on the town. It appears that at least one movie is released every couple of years that features Nantucket in some capacity. This town is near Martha's Vineyard, off the beach of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Nantucket is one of the more charming New England coastal towns, and the fact that it is located on an island makes it much more interesting. Although Nantucket has a significant amount of history, whaling is often regarded as the activity that first brought widespread attention to the island. If you want to get there, there is no bridge. You do have the option to take a small plane, a ferry, or swim, whichever you prefer. If you decide to swim, just know that it will take you 26 miles to get there. The docks of Nantucket are about 26 miles south of Cape Cod. You should definitely spend some time in the wharf area. What's not to like about the weathered wooden shingle siding that many older colonial homes have along the coast? Even some of the modern buildings have the same aspect. In reality, most of us cannot afford to live on Nantucket. Homes easily go from $1.26 to $12 million on Zillow. It's definitely a walkable island. They may have several cars along the roads, but the streets are really narrow. It's important to note that the town was built during a different time, so that must be considered when traveling in and around the area. Number 7. Lambertville, State of New Jersey. Yes, the state of New Jersey is a strange place. For example, you can't pump your own gas and you can't make left-hand turns on high-volume roadways. But it does have some very hospitable and wealthy neighborhoods and towns. It is said that Lambertville is the antique capital of New Jersey, so if you want to do some shopping for antiques over the weekend, you should travel to Lambertville. Lambertville is 23 miles from Trenton, New Jersey. This town has some incredible old homes. We're talking about houses that were built in the 1880s and can be found on the market for upwards of $600,000. These houses are incredible, and there are several of them available right now. They have a canal with a river walk and an adorable downtown. There are plenty of antique shops, restaurants and other good places to spend your money in town next to the river. There are approximately 4,000 people living in Lambertville. New Hope, Pennsylvania may be found directly across the Delaware River. If you're in the New York City region, it's well worth the trip to Lambertville because it has a population that's roughly equivalent to that of a small metropolitan area and an additional 2,600 people who live there. Number 6. Montpelier, Vermont. If you ever want to take a really good train trip, you could take the Amtrak from Washington, D.C., Philadelphia or New York. This train is locally known as the Vermonter, and it goes all the way up to Montpelier. It is worth a trip, especially if you go in the fall. Montpelier is the state capital of Vermont, and it is also the smallest state capital in the United States. It is arguably the best-looking state capital. Number 5. Medicine Park, Oklahoma. Now, this one is a little bit strange, but Medicine Park is one of the first resort towns in Oklahoma. It's in the Wichita Mountains, which are about 70 miles south of Oklahoma City, near Lawton. The founders of this area discovered this area back in the 1920s and thought it was beautiful. The local Native Americans told him that the creek called Medicine Creek had medicinal values. Seeing dollar signs, the founder dammed up the river, turning it into a nice swimming hole. Today you can find several fish hatcheries along Medicine Creek. Number 4. Silverton, Oregon. The town of Silverton can be found in the Greater Portland metropolitan region to the immediate south. A short distance to the east of Salem, Oregon, is where you'll find Silverton. It has a really cool downtown, especially with the creek running right through the center of town. There's a lot of restaurants where you can sit out in the balcony that overlook the creek. It can be a really cool view. Some of the pictures of the cafes look like it could be in France. You can take a little walking tour of the town. One thing that stood out to us during my time in Silverton was that unlike many of the small towns that we've been to in recent years, they don't have nearly as many businesses that have shut down. Many of the places that we've been, we'd estimate have around 25% vacancy on their commercial properties, with several construction opportunities to begin soon. Visit the charming community of Silverton if you find yourself in the vicinity of Salem or Portland, Oregon. Number 3. Camas, Washington County. Camas is just far enough away from Portland, Oregon to where it feels completely different, but it's close enough in case you do not need to go make the drive. They have one of the best downtowns of this on this list. Camas sits on the Columbia River, directly across from Troutdale, Oregon. Another interesting fact is that their high school's mascot is called the Papermakers, which is uniquely interesting. It may sound funny, but it's a lot better name than the Yummer Criminals, which was a real mascot of a high school in Arizona. Look it up when you get some time. Number 2. Pacific Grove. In the state of California, Pacific Grove can be found on a peninsula which is situated in the middle of Monterey Bay. The Monterey Bay Aquarium is split between the cities of Monterey and Pacific Grove. The central business district of Pacific Grove is comparable to Lighthouse Avenue. It's a pleasant place to live now, as far as the town goes. Outside of the downtown area, it's nice and clean. You can walk down to the different shops close to the ocean, and you can feel that cool breeze that comes in with the morning Monterey fog. Because of its location near the ocean, the property prices in this area are approximately 5 times more expensive than they would be in virtually any other section of California. Even the mobile home parks in this area are selling for much more than $1 million each. Pacific Grove is probably one of the best ones on this list because it's such a cute town with amazing coastal views and golf courses in the surrounding area for those who want to take a few swings. Number 1. Bar Harbor, Maine. About 3 hours northeast of Portland, Maine, you have Bar Harbor, Maine, which is on Mount Desert Island and sits right up against Acadia National Forest. This location definitely has one of the most underrated national parks in the national park system of the United States. Bar Harbor, Maine is also a great location if you enjoy cruises, especially the routes to and from Boston. That wraps up the video for today. We hope you had a good time and were able to glean some useful information. Subscribe if you are new, like the video. Please let us know in the comments section of this video which cities you would want to see featured in the next video, and we'll consider making a video about that just for you. Together, we will unleash your wanderlust. We encourage you to continue your journey with the Global Tourist. Have a great one.